Hello, Chemistry 1 students. These are your corrections for ChemQuest 23, Forming Ions. Forming ions, information, ions. Figure 1. Below are 4 Bohr diagrams of atoms and ions. The 2 diagrams on the left are atoms. The 2 on the right are ions. And it's going to be important that you look carefully at these. So, in the atom on the atom A has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 electrons. Atom B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 electrons. For ion of atom A, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 electrons. And ion of atom B, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 electrons. So question number 1. Prove that both atom A and atom B are neutral, have a charge of 0. So atom A has 12 electrons and 12 protons. Therefore, positive 12 minus 12, because of the electrons being negatively charged, equals 0. Okay, so atom B had 17, so atom B has 17 protons and 17 electrons. Therefore, positive 17 for the 17 positively charged protons minus the 17 negatively charged electrons equals 0. So the other way we could answer that is to say that both atoms have an equal number of protons and electrons. Question number 2, what is the identity of atom A and atom B? For that, you have to use your periodic table, right? Atom A has 12 protons, which means atom A has an atomic number equal to 12, and so it is magnesium. And atom B has an atomic number equal to 17, because remember the number of protons also tells me the atomic number, and atomic number 17 is chlorine. Question number 3. Given the above diagrams, how does an atom become an ion? So notice, for this atom to become an ion, it lost 2 electrons. And for atom B to become an ion, it gained 1 electron. So how does an atom become an ion? Okay, it either gains or loses electrons. So an atom becomes an ion by either gaining or losing electrons. Question number 4. Before answering this question, note that an ion's charge must have a sign of plus or minus and a number. Letter A, what is the charge of ion A? So we said that ion A had 12 protons and 10 electrons. So ion A has 12 protons and 10 electrons. Therefore, we have plus 12 for the 12 positively charged protons, minus 10 because we have the 10 negatively charged electrons, which gives us a charge of plus 2. So the charge on ion A is positive 2. For atom B, ion B, we have 17 protons and 18 electrons. So ion B has 17 protons and 18 electrons. Therefore, positive 17 minus the 18 negatively charged electrons leaves negative 1 for my charge on ion B. Number 5. How many electrons does ion A have? Ion A, right, had 10 electrons. What atom has the same number of electrons as ion A? So it's saying what neutral atom has 10 electrons. Well, if it's neutral and it has 10 electrons, that means it also has to have 10 protons. Therefore, it is neon. Number 6. How many electrons does ion B have? It had 18. What atom has the same number of electrons as ion B? Again, that means it has to have 18 protons and 18 electrons, so it's neutral. And atomic number 18 is argon. Number 7. Bromine atoms always gain 1 electron when they become an ion. Which atom has the same number of electrons as a bromine ion? So here's bromine as an atom. Bromine as an atom has 35 protons and 35 electrons because it's an atom. Now, when we become a bromine ion, we still have to have 35 protons because that's what makes it bromine. But now it told us that it's going to gain 1 electron. So now it's going to have 36 electrons. So the question here is, which atom has the same number of electrons as a bromine atom? Well, if we have 36 electrons, that means we have to have 36 protons to be neutral. And atomic number 36 is krypton. Number 8, cesium atoms always lose 1 electron to become an ion. Which atom has the same number of electrons as a cesium ion? So cesium atom has 55 protons and 55 electrons. That's what makes it neutral, the fact that it has an equal number of protons and electrons. Cesium as an ion still has to have 55 protons because that's what makes it cesium, but they tell us that it's going to lose 1 electron, so it's going to have 54 electrons. So we want to know what atom has the same number of electrons as a cesium ion. Well, if it has 54 electrons and it's neutral, that means it has to have 54 protons because it's neutral. And so atomic number 54 is xenon. Number 9. Consider your answers to questions 5 through 8. What do all of the atoms you named have in common? So we named neon, argon, okay. We named krypton and xenon. What do these all have in common? They are all noble gases. They are group 18 or 8A elements. So they are all noble gases with 8 outer level electrons. Number 10, knowing what you know about the atoms that you named in questions 5 through 8, why do you think atoms want to form ions the way they do? Remember, we've talked about the fact that the noble gases have very stable electron configurations. So what we see is atoms want to gain or lose electrons so that their electron configuration as an ion is the same as a noble gas. Because it's stable. So again, when I've talked about it in class, I've kind of said that the noble gases are like the cool kids on the periodic table. Every other element on the periodic table, when it gains or loses electrons to become an ion, it's always doing so to try to be like the noble gases. Okay, so I tend to call the noble gases sort of the cool kids on the periodic table. Information about ions. As you know, all of the noble gases are very stable. Ions form in such a way so that the ion will have the same number of electrons as a noble gas. Take oxygen, for example. Oxygen has 8 electrons. To become like a noble gas, it could either gain 2 to become like neon, or it could lose 6 to become like helium. So what will oxygen do? Gain 2 or lose 6? As a general rule, atoms will gain or lose the fewest number of electrons possible. So this is going to always kind of become our question. Is our atom going to lose electrons to become like the noble gas of the row above it? Or is it going to gain electrons to become like the noble gas of the row that it's in? Question 11. What does an oxygen atom do when becoming an ion? Does it gain or lose electrons, and how many? Well, we just said its options were it could gain 2 to become like neon, or it could lose 6 to become like helium. It's always going to do whatever's easier, so it's going to gain 2 electrons. Okay. Question number 12. An oxygen atom has an overall neutral charge because it has an even number of protons and electrons. What is the overall charge on an oxygen ion? So oxygen as an atom has 8 protons and 8 electrons. That makes it neutral. Oxygen as an ion still has to have 8 protons. That's what makes it oxygen. But we just said it's going to gain 2 electrons, so it's going to have 10 electrons. So positive 8 minus 10 equals a negative 2 charge. So oxygen has a negative 2 charge when it forms an ion. And again, it's becoming an ion because it gets 10 electrons like neon. Always trying to be like a noble gas. Number 13, consider an aluminum atom. To become like argon, would aluminum have to gain or lose electrons, and how many? So aluminum has 13 protons and 13 electrons as a neutral atom. So to be like argon, which is atomic number 18, it would have to gain electrons, and it would have to gain 5 electrons. To become like neon, would aluminum have to gain or lose electrons? Neon has 10 electrons, so it would have to lose 3 electrons. Considering your answers to parts A and B, what does an aluminum atom do to become an ion? Remember, it's always going to do whatever is smallest or fewest. So it is going to lose 3 electrons. What is the charge of an aluminum ion? So aluminum as an atom has 13 protons and 13 electrons. Aluminum as an ion still has to have 13 protons to make it aluminum, but we said it's going to lose 3 electrons. So now it's going to have 10 electrons. So positive 13 minus 10 gives me a charge of plus 3 charge. And again, remember, 10 electrons like neon. So aluminum becomes like neon. Question number 14. When each of the following atoms becomes an ion, what will the charge be? So we're going to kind of work through this methodically. So calcium, right, has 20 protons and 20 electrons. So it could lose 2 electrons to be like argon, or it can gain effectively, because we can kind of disregard the 3D because those aren't in the highest occupied energy level. So effectively, it can gain 6 electrons to be like krypton. Remember, it's always going to do whatever is easiest. So it's going to lose 2 electrons. So now, as a calcium ion, it has 20 protons and 18 electrons. So positive 20 minus 18 gives me a plus 2 charge. All right, letter B says chlorine. Chlorine has 17 protons and 17 electrons. So it can lose 7 electrons to be like neon, or it can gain 1 electron to be like argon. What is it going to do? It's going to do whatever's easiest, so it's going to gain 1 electron to be like argon. So a chlorine ion is going to have 17 protons and 18 electrons. Therefore, positive 17 minus 18 gives us a charge of negative 1. Letter C, nitrogen. Nitrogen as an atom has 7 protons and 7 electrons. So nitrogen could lose 5 electrons to be like helium. Or it can gain 3 electrons to be like neon. Again, it's going to do whatever is easier, so it's going to gain 3 electrons to be like neon. So nitrogen as an ion is going to have 7 protons and 10 electrons. Therefore, positive 7 minus 10 gives me a charge of negative 3. If we look at potassium, potassium as an atom has 19 protons and 19 electrons. So potassium can lose 1 electron to become like argon, or it can gain 7 electrons to be like krypton. It's going to do whatever's easiest, so it's going to lose 1. So potassium as an ion is going to have 19, positive 19, okay? 19 protons and 18 electrons gives me a charge of a plus 1. Next we have sulfur. So sulfur as an atom has 16 protons and 16 electrons. So its choices are it can lose 6 electrons to be like neon, or it can gain 2 electrons to be like argon. It's going to do whatever's easiest, so it's going to gain 2. So sulfur as an ion is going to have 16 protons and 18 electrons. Therefore, positive 16 minus 18 gives me a charge of negative 2. After sulfur, we have boron. So boron as an atom has 5 protons and 5 electrons. So boron can either lose 3 electrons to be like helium, or boron can gain 5 electrons to be like neon. It's going to do whatever's easiest. It's going to lose its 3 electrons. So boron as an ion has 5 protons and 2 electrons. Right? Therefore, positive 5 minus 2 gives us a positive 3 charge for boron. And lastly, we have phosphorus. Phosphorus as an atom has 15 protons and 15 electrons. So its choices are it could lose 5 electrons to be like neon, or it can gain 3 electrons to be like argon. It's going to do whatever's smallest, so it's going to gain 3 electrons. So phosphorus as an ion is going to have 15 protons and 18 electrons. Therefore, positive 15 minus 18 gives me a negative 3 charge. Those are your corrections for this ChemQuest. Have a good day. Talk to you tomorrow.